Luke Woodham. Every catastrophe possesses a genesis. For Luke Woodham, it originated in the serene municipality of Pearl, Mississippi, the sort of locale where cathedral chimes echoed on Sabbaths and inhabitants left their entrances unbolted. Luke was 16, a reserved, stout adolescent who appeared courteous to seniors but remained invisible to his peers. He navigated the space between school and home, nurturing internal lacerations invisible to the world. Subjected to incessant bullying, he was ridiculed for his physique and his isolation. While he projected a smile in public, his private journals were saturated with resentment. In one entry, he remarked, "They fail to perceive me. They soon will." His mother, Mary Ann Woodham, was a benevolent woman who labored extensively to provide for him. She exhorted him to excel and find companionship, but Luke interpreted her encouragement as suffocating surveillance. He began to view her as an impediment to the power he craved. His descent accelerated when he encountered Grant Boyette, a magnetic older teenager who spearheaded a small faction known as the Croth. They were obsessed with nihilism and the occult, adolescents masquerading as something lethal. Boyette convinced Luke that he was extraordinary, and that true potency required the destruction of one's emotional tethers. Before daybreak on a frigid October morning, Luke approached his mother's bedside with a butcher knife. She was asleep when the blade shattered the silence. Following the act, he remained motionless, waiting to experience a sensation that never arrived. He merely washed his hands, changed his attire, and departed. Driving her vehicle to Pearl High School, he emerged in a trench coat concealing a rifle. He opened fire, claiming the lives of Lydia Dew and Christina Menifee before being neutralized by an assistant principal. "Arrested and calm," he stated. "The world wounded me, so I retaliated." Found guilty of triple homicide, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. The scariest monsters aren't under the bed. They're in the next room. Drop a comment below. Do you think someone is born evil? Or is it made? Nicholas Browning. In the idyllic suburbs of Cockeysville, Maryland, the Browning family personified stability. A father who mentored youth sports, a mother employed at the local academy, and two vibrant sons. Yet behind the manicured lawns, 15-year-old Nicholas was harboring a rot. To his instructors, he was an intellectual prospect destined for law school. To his father, John, he was a son who required discipline and excellence. Nicholas, however, viewed his father's guidance as an intolerable yoke. He began fantasizing about a life devoid of familial constraints. On a frigid February night in 2008, those fantasies manifested into a nightmare. While his family slept, Nicholas retrieved his father's 9mm handgun. He stood over his sleeping father and fired twice. When his mother, Tammy, awoke in terror, he silenced her as well. He then proceeded to the chamber where his younger brothers, Gregory and Benjamin, lay in repose, and executed them both. Within 2 minutes, 4 lives were extinguished. Nicholas subsequently cleansed himself, took the family vehicle, and spent the night at a friend's residence, masquerading as a grieving son. When the charade collapsed under police interrogation, he confessed with a flat, clinical detachment. He claimed he was simply tired of them telling me what to do. Investigators were horrified by the premeditation. He hadn't acted in a blind rage, but with calculated convenience. Convicted of quadruple homicide, he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms. To this day, the house remains a silent monument to the night a son decided his convenience was worth more than his family's blood. We're just getting started with these chilling cases. If you're a fan of true crime, make sure your notifications are on so you never miss a story. Aaron Caffey. Some chronicles commence with an outcry. This one began with a whisper. Erin Caffey was the quintessential pastor's daughter in a small Texas town, a girl who sang in the choir and projected an aura of divine sweetness. However, beneath the dimples, a tempest was brewing. Her parents, Terry and Penny, were devoted, but apprehensive about her relationship with 18-year-old Charlie Wilkinson. When they attempted to sever the connection, Erin didn't weep, she planned. Enlisting Charlie and 2 accomplices, Erin orchestrated the eradication of her entire household for the sake of her freedom. In the early hours of March 1, 2008, while Erin waited in a getaway vehicle, the group infiltrated the home. Penny and her 2 young sons, Matthew and Tyler, were brutally slaughtered in their beds. The house was then doused in accelerant and ignited. Miraculously, Terry Caffey survived. Despite being shot and slashed, he crawled through the inferno to seek help. When police apprehended Erin, she attempted to portray herself as a victim of Charlie's influence. However, Charlie's testimony revealed the truth. Erin was the architect. She had designated the targets and requested the arson to mask the evidence. Despite the betrayal, Terry chose the path of radical forgiveness, visiting her in prison and authoring a memoir about his survival. Erin remains incarcerated for life, a choir girl who watched her world burn for a boy who eventually betrayed her. How could a daughter orchestrate such a massacre? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Tyler Hadley. In Port St. Lucie, Florida, 17-year-old Tyler Hadley was meticulously planning a performance that would haunt the state forever. Tyler was a youth drifting into a void of depression and substance abuse. But his parents, Blake and Mary Jo, refused to abandon him. They offered therapy and boundaries, unaware that Tyler viewed their concern as an obstacle to his ultimate desire: infamy. On July 16, 2011, Tyler retrieved a claw hammer from the garage and brutally attacked his mother in the kitchen. When his father intervened, Tyler ended his life as well. He then spent hours concealing their remains in the master bedroom, under a pile of household items. Once the gore was hidden, he sent a chilling text: "Party at my place, spread the word." That evening, dozens of teenagers flooded the residence, oblivious to the fact that the hosts lay dead just feet away. Tyler navigated the festivities with a vacant, chilling smile. He eventually confessed to his best friend Michael Mandel, showing him the bodies. After the revelry concluded, Michael alerted the authorities. Tyler later claimed he committed the murders because he wanted to see what it felt like and wanted to throw a legendary party. He was sentenced to life without parole, leaving behind a boarded-up house and a community shattered by the realization that a son's need for attention could outweigh the sanctity of life. The details of the Hadley party are truly disturbing. If you want to see more cases like this, help us out by sharing this video with a friend. Tyler Hadley. In Port St. Lucie, Florida, 17-year-old Tyler Hadley was meticulously planning a performance that would haunt the state forever. Tyler was a youth drifting into a void of depression and substance abuse. But his parents, Blake and Mary Jo, refused to abandon him. They offered therapy and boundaries, unaware that Tyler viewed their concern as an obstacle to his ultimate desire: infamy. On July 16, 2011, Tyler retrieved a claw hammer from the garage and brutally attacked his mother in the kitchen. When his father intervened, Tyler ended his life as well. He then spent hours concealing their remains in the master bedroom under a pile of household items. Once the gore was hidden, he sent a chilling text: "Party at my place, spread the word." That evening, dozens of teenagers flooded the residence, oblivious to the fact that the hosts lay dead just feet away. Tyler navigated the festivities with a vacant, chilling smile. He eventually confessed to his best friend, Michael Mandel, showing him the bodies. After the revelry concluded, Michael alerted the authorities. Tyler later claimed he committed the murders because he wanted to see what it felt like and wanted to throw a legendary party. He was sentenced to life without parole, leaving behind a boarded-up house and a community shattered by the realization that a son's need for attention could outweigh the sanctity of life. The details of the Hadley party are truly disturbing. If you want to see more cases like this, help us out by sharing this video with a friend. John Granat. The Granat family of Palos Park, Illinois, were the pillars of their community, honest, hardworking, and profoundly proud of their son, John. However, the 17-year-old felt stifled by his parents' traditional expectations. When John Sr. and Maria grounded him for a minor deception, the youth's resentment curdled into a lethal greed. John began recruiting a group of associates, promising them thousands of dollars from his father's safe if they eliminated his parents. On September 10, 2011, John unlocked the rear entrance for the assassins. While he waited in the basement, the group ascended to the master bedroom and bludgeoned the couple with baseball bats. When the task was nearly complete, the killers summoned John to the room. They handed him a blade and commanded him to finish it. John Granat Jr. then leaned over his broken father and slit his throat. After the group fled with cash and jewelry, John contacted 911, performing a histrionic display of grief. Detectives quickly noted the lack of forced entry and the selective theft. Under pressure, John confessed, citing the desire for his parents yelling to stop. Prosecutors described him as the ultimate betrayer, a son who traded his parents' lives for pocket change. He was sentenced to life in prison, a cold reminder that sometimes the person mowing the lawn in the afternoon is planning a massacre for midnight. Greed is a powerful motivator, but killing your own parents for cash? Tell us what you think of John Granat's sentence in the comments below. Mason Sisk. In the rural quiet of Elkmont, Alabama, 14-year-old Mason Sisk executed a crime of such clinical precision it defied his age. On a September evening in 2019, Mason contacted the authorities, claiming an intruder had slaughtered his family. When police arrived, they found 5 victims: his father, stepmother, and 3 younger siblings, one of whom was only 6 months old. All had been shot in the head at close range. Under interrogation, Mason's shaken survivor act disintegrated. He eventually confessed, stating he had been angry about being grounded and losing his phone. Investigators discovered a history of troubling behavior, including Mason bragging that he could get away with murder because of his age. He had walked from room to room, reloading his weapon to ensure every member of his family was dead. The community was paralyzed by the senselessness of the act. There was no abuse and no profound trauma, only a festering adolescent rage that demanded a lethal outlet. Mason was convicted of 5 counts of capital murder and received the maximum sentence allowed for a minor: life without the possibility of parole. He remains a ghost in the Alabama prison system, a boy who chose to erase his entire bloodline over a trivial domestic dispute. Killing 5 family members at 14 is almost unthinkable. If this case shocked you, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Ethan Orton. Ethan Orton of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was described by everyone as a gentle soul, obedient, studious, and deeply involved in his church. However, Ethan was drowning in a psychotic delusion. He believed his life was a burden and that suicide was his only escape. In his warped logic, he decided that killing his parents would be a mercy, preventing them from suffering the grief of his eventual death. On October 14, 2021, Ethan armed himself with a kitchen knife and entered his parents' bedroom. Mindy and David Orton, who had spent years supporting their son's mental health struggles, were brutally stabbed to death. Ethan later told police he whispered "I'm sorry" as he carried out the act. He remained with their bodies for an hour, contemplating his own end, before surrendering to the authorities. The courtroom was gripped by the tragedy of a boy who committed murder out of a distorted love. Psychologists noted his total detachment from reality, yet Ethan insisted he had saved them. He pleaded guilty and received a life sentence. His case is a somber reminder that the most dangerous delusions are often those that masquerade as compassion. Mental health and true crime often intersect in tragic ways. What do you think could have prevented the Orton tragedy? Comment your thoughts below. Corey Johnson. In the gated enclave of Ballin Isles, Florida, a birthday sleepover turned into a scene of extremist carnage. 17-year-old Corey Johnson was a guest in the home of Elaine Simon, a woman who welcomed him with open arms. Unknown to her, Corey had been radicalized online, spending months absorbing violent ideologies that commanded the elimination of those who offended his beliefs. In the middle of the night, Corey retrieved a knife and attacked 13-year-old Giovanni Sierra, the guest of honor, as he slept. He then moved through the house, stabbing Elaine and her younger son. Elaine fought with heroic ferocity to protect her children, sustaining life-threatening injuries, but ultimately surviving. Giovanni, however, succumbed to his wounds. Corey was apprehended at the scene, displaying a chilling religious fervor. He claimed his actions were an act of devotion. Investigators were disturbed to find that he had been flagged multiple times by school officials, yet the system failed to intervene before he brought his holy war into a suburban living room. He was sentenced to life, a testament to how quickly digital radicalization can turn a quiet teenager into a lethal insurgent. It's terrifying to think a sleepover could turn into a targeted attack. If you want more stories about the dangers of the digital age, subscribe now. Zachary Callens. The final case in our chronicle takes us to Granbury, Texas, where 16-year-old Zachary Callens lived a life that appeared perfectly ordinary. He was a reserved youth in a church-going family, yet he harbored a secret, explosive resentment toward his parents' smothering rules. On June 4, 2014, after a typical family dinner, Zachary waited for the house to go silent. He retrieved his father's handgun and executed both Michael and Sharon Callens as they lay in bed. When his father stirred and spoke his name, Zachary fired again. He then sat on the porch, watching the sun rise over his handiwork until the authorities arrived. When questioned, he offered no complex motive. He simply said he snapped because he wanted them to stop controlling him. The Granbury community struggled to reconcile the polite boy they knew with the killer, who confessed without a single tear. Zachary was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life. His story, like all those before it, serves as a final, haunting warning. Evil does not always announce itself with a roar. Sometimes it sits quietly at the dinner table, says grace, and waits for the lights to go out.